Finally, it is here, the BOOBA tank, the Obsidian. We can't really call it the other name because it probably will get the video demonetized. Thank you very much, YouTube. In any case, this tank is a fairly interesting vehicle. Why exactly? Because it kind of tries to combine two complete opposites to make a tank more unique. Do you all remember the 122 TM? Slow, well armored, bad DPM. We also have Arnie's tank. This one is also slow, has actually a pretty strong gun, and it has insane frontal armor. And now we have the Obsidian. The Obsidian is fairly weird. It is slow, has surprisingly good side armor and surprisingly good turret armor if you are fighting against low caliber rounds, like everything under 120 millimeters. And it has an insane DPM. It has 200 alpha, which is pathetic, actually. But with 4.2 seconds reload time, that is very, very, very good. However, it is an 85mm gun, and the gun handling could be better. Yes, this might also be an issue when you're playing this tank without a stabilizer. Because with this tank having a decent chunk of armor and being very, very slow, again, we have 13 HP per ton ratio when you would play this tank without a turbocharger. And I do not recommend doing that, otherwise you might be genuinely thinking that you dislike yourself. I don't know, don't judging. But the thing is, with this gun, you basically always have to trade 2 for 1. So if an enemy gave you a shot for like 240 damage, you always have to shoot twice. Which is possible with the 4.2 seconds reload, yeah, but it sometimes can be hard, because the one major problem with this 85mm gun is that it lacks module damage. This can lead to the fact that you might even have the issue of trying to detract some people even with the third shot, from at least my personal gaming experience. And this is very annoying to try and do this, especially when you're fighting against people which are actually using HP module, which elevates their damage on their tracks, and HP on their tracks. So now we have a tank which has good penetration, I have to say. 212, that's fine. 242 with premium, 280 alpha and 50mm with HE. That's totally legit. That's totally fine against vehicles with very poor armor, like an ELC 90, RHM, etc. That's fine. Dispersion is kind of meh, and the gun handling is also kind of meh. And now the armor, because this should be the main selling point of this vehicle. Because if it doesn't go for the armor, then what's the point of playing this vehicle, you know? And I kind of try to make it quick. The upper frontlet is 120mm thick with a weak spot for the driver's hatch. So against low tiers, that is actually pretty strong. And as already mentioned, the turret is really strong actually for a medium tank. 240mm of armor, that is totally a-okay. It also has 6 degrees of gun depression, which is stout. It even means that you can hide your cupola. And the cupola is fairly weak, hence we talked about the 35mm, or rather the 120mm gun. Then you have the side armor with 65 and the lower 40mm, as well as lots of spaced armor and obviously your balls, which give it the very unique name. And that makes this tank fairly bouncy. Like in brawls, it is basically perfect brawler tank. But then again, you also have to compromise quite a lot. So for example, obviously, frontally, everybody goes through because your armor is very, very bad. So you start to angle very heavily. So you try to need to angle like this, and now it starts to be fairly hard for the enemy, as you can see. But you have this lower side here, which can get penetrated over here, but that's very, very lucky. So now you have to maybe start a little bit angling a little bit more. It might get harder, or they can just penetrate here, because here you can see it is straight. This is just straight armor right there. So they can easily penetrate. The upper side is the one which is very nicely angled, and the lower side is just flat. So they can chunk through it also fairly reliably. And obviously if you start shooting premium rounds, you can see even the turret becomes fairly easy. However, what the cool thing about the TITTs is that I shouldn't have said that. That if you're going to hold down, your cupola goes away, but if you are above him, as you can see, the armor doesn't work anymore. It is a little bit like the BTSV on tier 2 or 3. Same armor scheme, really. And it makes it unique and makes it fun to brawl with. But we come to that in just a second. Mobility doesn't really allow you to brawl. Also, another thing which I noticed in my gaming session is that if you get shot in the front, you'd tend to lose your engine. This is not the case that you were going to burn because the engine is in the back, but the main issue is that the tank has its transmission in the front. So very often you lose your transmission and you're kind of just even slower. Again, you go from 30 HP to turn ratio to, I don't know, like 7.5. And this is, I don't know, it's just not much. It's just straight up bad. And again, what bad is the mobility, and this is basically killing the tank. Again, the 1-to-1 TM has good frontal armor. It has its weak spots and has good frontal armor, but it's slow. And it has a punchy gun. The M47 improved has the same HP per turn ratio as the Obsidian. It is also not fast, but it has absurd frontal armor. It has 10 degrees of gun depression, has pretty punchy gun. It has great premium rounds penetration. All in that, it is a good, capable vehicle. And now you have the Obsidian, which has a very quotation mark weak gun when it comes to alpha and penetration. Again, in quotation mark. And you have decent armor, but more on the side rather than on the front, with really bad mobility. And this just kind of makes the tank meh. I know I'm constantly talking about this, but this is... it might make or break the thing for you to grind this tank. It is not bad. Again, don't get me wrong, it is a unique vehicle and I think it is something we didn't really had yet. However, the main point is it really fun to play when you're always so slow and you always have issues to getting into position? And this just kind of makes the tank, for me, boring to play. Even though I would love to play this tank more, and I would love to just see this tank perform better. And again, it looks unique and it also has great camouflage because it's squished. It's a little bit like the Object 775. It's bonked, you know? But then again, it's just like, it feels like a burden to play it thanks to its horrendously bad power to weight ratio. You won't achieve your top speed at all on flat ground. Adding to that also your subpar soft stats. Now you could say, okay, let's play it with turbo. I already do that, because otherwise this tank will probably be literally resident sleeper. You could also say, well, maybe use oil. Come on. Really? Oil? Like, I get the idea, but what are you going to remove then? Rep kit? Hell no. 8 kit? Nah. Or you want to use convert rations. But then you lose even more view range, and this tank doesn't really have good view range, you know? So it kind of feels like this tank is lacking like one addition. It just lacks 2 HP per turn ratio more to make it properly, decently, and okay fun to play. Right now it is meh. However, before you say, oh, Raging, you always complain about wargaming introducing OP tanks and stuff, it is a balanced tank. But when you have a scale from 1 to 10, it's not a 5, which would be a well-balanced tank. It is like a 4, you know? And for me, usually when a tank should be well-balanced, I would like to strive it to be towards a 6. So it is still fairly well-balanced, but it's also very fun to play. So for me, example, but that's just my personal opinion, I like the 50 TP. I know some people don't like it, they think it's trash, it's bad, it's bleh. But let's be honest, the 50 TP prototype, which right now they also gave out in the Ukrainian United 24 bundle. Perfect, by the way, I really like this. It is a nice tank. To me, it's a 6 to even a 7. Yes, it has a little bit of a derpy gun. Yes, it is a little bit wide, you know, and it has an odd armor scheme. But nevertheless, it is a capable tier 8 heavy tank, which has its uniqueness. And I barely hear anybody calling it overpowered, you know. So in my opinion, this is a really well-balanced tank. While the Obsidian right here is just, again, it's not bad, but it's also like, if I would have to decide between getting the Obsidian or the 50 TP prototype, I would go for the 50 TP prototype. It just feels more convenient to play, it's more fun to play, and it's more conventional to play. And one major thing, which also might make or break a tank for you, is Genuinely, if a tank has high DPM and low alpha, it is considerably harder to play than a tank which has low DPM or low reload rate, but high alpha. That is why, for example, right now, also you see a lot of people just enjoying playing tanks like the 277, maybe even the BC75, thanks to its higher alpha. Or the 122 TM. People enjoy playing this tank because it combines good armor and a great gun with great penetration, 400mm of pen. That is all you need. In any case, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you around.